All right, let's talk about Tesla. It's one of the most valuable companies on the planet, but it's also one of the most controversial. You have investors who are absolutely convinced it's the future, and then you have others who think it's just a house of cards waiting to fall. So, what is the real story behind that trillion-dollar price tag? Well, to get to the bottom of it, you have to realize you're not actually looking at just one company.
Yeah, the entire massive debate really boils down to this one question. Because when you look at Tesla, it feels like investors are seeing two completely different companies hiding inside the very same stock.
So, on one side, you have the bears. Let's call them Camp A. They look at Tesla and they see a car company. Plain and simple. And they're worried. They see slowing demand for EVs, they see a brutal price war that's just crushing profits, and they see fierce competition everywhere. But on the other side, you've got the bulls, Camp B. And they see something else entirely. They see an AI and robotics company. To them, the cars are just a sideshow. The real prize is full self-driving, the Optimus robot, and AI.
Okay, so let's start with the bulls. Let's dive into their robot dream. To really understand their case, you have to kind of look past what's happening today and into a very specific, almost science fiction version of the future.
This quote, this is pretty much the heart of the entire bull argument. The idea is that the millions of Teslas already on the road aren't just for getting from point A to point B. Nope, they are a massive fleet of rolling computers constantly collecting unbelievable amounts of real-world data to train a world-changing AI. And this whole vision is really built on three main pillars. First, solving full self-driving, or FSD, which would unlock a huge network of robo-taxis that literally earn money for their owners while they sleep. Second, the Optimus humanoid robot. And third, something a little more down to earth, the rapidly growing Megapack energy storage business.
Now, here's where it gets really wild. What's the scale of this bet? Well, some of the biggest bulls argue that if Tesla can actually pull off a working humanoid robot, it won't be a $1 trillion company, it'll be a $20 trillion company. This is the ultimate moonshot bet.
But, not everything in the bull case is a moonshot. The Megapack energy business, that's already happening. It's incredibly profitable. I'm talking gross margins that have sometimes been even better than the car business, and it's growing at an insane rate. It provides a really solid foundation, even if those more futuristic bets take a little longer to pay off.
But, of course, for every bull, there's a bear. And the bears, well, they look at all this talk about the future, and they bring things crashing right back down to earth with some very real, right here, right now problems.
This question is the single biggest fear for any skeptic. They argue that the stock is priced for this perfect sci-fi future that is so far from being guaranteed. And if that future doesn't show up, then the current valuation just makes no sense at all.
And this timeline, wow, this perfectly illustrates their point about full self-driving. Just look at it. For nearly a decade, the promise has always been that true self-driving is just 1 year away. Bears look at this repeating pattern and say, hey, maybe this is a technical problem that's just always going to be just out of reach.
And while Tesla is busy chasing that future, competition is a huge problem right now. This chart shows that the Chinese automaker BYD has already blown past Tesla in the sheer number of vehicles it produces. That competitive moat that Tesla used to have, it is shrinking, and it's shrinking fast.
Oh, and the worries definitely don't stop there. All those price cuts are squeezing profits. Legacy automakers like Ford and GM are finally catching up, and there's a real concern about the CEO risk, the idea that his attention is divided between Tesla, X, SpaceX, and everything else.
So you've got the bulls, and you've got the bears. But what if you actually believe in the big picture, the whole electric vehicle and AI revolution, but you're just not sure about betting everything on one single high-risk company? Well, there is a third way to think about all this.
It's a classic investment strategy. Think about the gold rush. The people who made the most reliable fortunes weren't always the miners risking everything to find gold. A lot of the time, it was the merchants who sold picks and shovels to all of the miners. So how does this apply here? Well, instead of putting all your chips on Tesla winning the EV race, you could bet on the raw materials that all the EV makers need, like lithium. Or, if you're really excited by the robot dream, you could invest in the entire robotics and AI sector. You're betting on the whole forest, not just one single tree. And then there's the adventurous move, the anti-Tesla trade. You could just bet on its biggest and fastest-growing competitor. Okay, so we've heard the bull case, the bear case, and that third picks and shovels way. Let's try to wrap all this up with a clear framework for how you can think about Tesla from this point on.
The most important thing to get your head around is that Tesla is what Wall Street calls a story stock. Its value isn't just based on how many cars it sells today. It's based on a powerful, compelling belief in a story about the future.
And because of that, investing in Tesla is a completely different kind of proposition. You're not buying a normal stock, you are literally buying a belief. This makes it a binary bet. That means it could either be a huge home run success or a significant failure, with very little room in the middle. If the story comes true, your investment could multiply. If it doesn't, it could fall dramatically.
Now, because of this super high-risk, high-reward nature, a pretty common piece of advice is something called the 5% rule. The idea is that a stock this speculative should probably only ever be a small slice, maybe 5% or less of a really well-diversified portfolio.
So, in the end, it all comes back to that one huge question. Which story do you believe? Is Tesla just an overhyped car company that's getting caught in a nasty price war? Or is it the company that's about to kickstart the next evolution of humanity with AI and robots? The answer you choose is what will ultimately determine your view of this trillion-dollar bet.